Hello and welcome and namaste from New Delhi. I am Gautam Roy and this is a special broadcast which is all about the second leg of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's five-nation visit. The PM has been in the Netherlands since yesterday, where he not only got a rousing reception from the 300,000 strong Indian diaspora, but also a jam-packed community event took place earlier in the day. He's also called on the King and Queen of the Netherlands, and pretty soon the business end of his visit to The Hague will commence. We'll be tracking all the developments along with getting perspectives on the extensive India-Netherlands ties and their anticipated elevation over the course of the next few hours with DD India's team at The Hague, and also expert guests who will be part of the show. Let's begin. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in the Netherlands in the second leg of his five-nation visit. And during his visit, the PM has met Netherlands' King Willem-Alexander and Queen Maxima at The Hague on Saturday. Prime Minister Modi's visit to The Hague turned into a grand celebration, as well as the Indian diaspora gathered in large numbers at the World Forum Convention Centre. The atmosphere was charged with pride and anticipation, marking a special moment where culture, community and leadership came together. This wasn't just an event, it was a showcase of India's growing global presence and deep ties that connect India with the Netherlands. More in this report.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi received a rousing welcome in The Hague, the Netherlands, as he interacted with the vibrant Indian diaspora. The World Forum Convention Centre was filled with enthusiasm, reflecting the strong cultural bonds between India and the Netherlands. As chants of Modi, Modi echoed through the hall, the Prime Minister stepped onto the stage to a thunderous ovation. The event opened with dazzling cultural performances showcasing the richness of Indian traditions. Addressing the gathering, Prime Minister Modi said that for any country to progress, it must dream big. PM highlighted India's vibrant startup ecosystem, noting that the nation's youth have built a world-class system, making India one of the top startup nations globally.
दुनिया का कोई भी देश हो, अगर उसे आगे बढ़ना है तो उसे बड़े सपने देखने ही होंगे। भारत का स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम लगातार हो रहा है। अब हम दुनिया के तीसरे सबसे बड़े स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम वाले देश हैं।
The PM said India is a land of opportunities, adding that the country is undergoing an unprecedented transformation and its aspirations are no longer limited to its borders. Recalling that in 2014, India had only 4 unicorns, Prime Minister Modi said India has nearly 125 active unicorns now. Highlighting recent crises faced by the world, the Prime Minister termed the current decade as one filled with challenges. He added that the Netherlands and India are working to build a future-ready supply chain.
ये दशक दुनिया के लिए आपदाओं का दशक बन रहा है। हम सभी देख रहे हैं, अगर ये स्थितियां तेजी से नहीं बदली गई तो बीते अनेक दशकों की उपलब्धियों पर पानी फिर जाएगा। दुनिया की बहुत बड़ी आबादी फिर से गरीबी के दलदल में चली जाएगी। साथियों, ऐसी वैश्विक परिस्थितियों में आज दुनिया रेजिलिएंट सप्लाई चेन की बात कर रही है और तब भारत और नीदरलैंड मिलकर एक ट्रस्टेड, ट्रांसपेरेंट और फ्यूचर रेडी सप्लाई चेन बनाने में जुटे हैं.
He lauded the Indian diaspora for its contribution to Dutch society and economy. Prime Minister Modi also underlined the growing partnership between India and the Netherlands, mentioning cooperation in energy security, water security, and particularly green hydrogen. The Prime Minister stressed that the upcoming India-EU trade agreement will further strengthen ties benefiting the diaspora as well.
भारतीय बिजनेस के लिए यूरोप में प्रवेश का नेचुरल गेटवे नीदरलैंड बनेगा.
Meanwhile, the Indian community warmly welcomed his remarks, praising the vision for stronger Indo-Dutch relations.
It was a fantastic feeling because when the Prime Minister of the nation comes and addresses the Indian diaspora here, it gives a feeling of pride. And the way he spoke about the partnership between India and Netherlands, which is going to take us forward, we are up for it. We are going to play a role in terms of making India a great nation.
We are so proud that we are being led by someone like Mr. Narendra Modi. So we are so happy. Thank you very much, Mr. Modi, and we are always there to support India and be part of an Indian growth.
It was an honor to hear Modi, and we are quite aspirational to bridge the gap between India and Netherlands.
The community event in The Hague was not just a celebration of culture, but also a reaffirmation of the strong bonds between India and the Netherlands. With chants, cheers, and cultural pride filling the hall, Prime Minister Modi gave a clear message that matters of time and distance cannot fade away, the strong bonds of cultural identity, adding that India's diverse culture still beats in the hearts of its people. With inputs from Amritpal Singh in The Hague, Rahul Upadhyay's report for DD India.
And Prime Minister Modi also lauded the Indian diaspora for its significant role in strengthening Dutch society and economy. Recalling the historic mandate received in 2014, the Prime Minister reminded the gathering that the Lok Sabha election results on the 16th of May 2014 had paved the way for the formation of a stable majority government in India after several decades. He added that the immense trust and support of crores of Indians continues to inspire him to work tirelessly for the progress and development of the nation.
आज 16 मई है और ये दिन एक और वजह से बहुत विशेष है. आज से 12 वर्ष पहले 2014 में आज के ही दिन लोकसभा चुनाव के नतीजे आए थे. दशकों बाद भारत में स्थिर और पूर्ण बहुमत वाली सरकार का बनना पक्का हुआ था. कोटि कोटि भारतवासियों का विश्वास मुझे न रुकने देता है और न थकने देता है. और फिर तो आपका सुख ही मेरा सुख बन गया, आपका कल्याण ही मेरा कर्तव्य बन गया.
So that's how the PM has appreciated the contributions of the Indian diaspora in the Netherlands in terms of not only how it has made its place and enriched the society in the Netherlands, but also has acted as a living bridge between the two nations. Now, joining us to talk about India and Netherlands relations and the prospects for its further elevation, expansion, taking it to in areas where things have not really developed to that extent till now. We have Venu Rajamoni, former Indian ambassador to the Netherlands, joining us, and we also have with us Dr. Sheetla Sharma. She is a professor at the School of International Studies at the Jawaharlal Nehru University in Delhi. Good evening to you both. If I could come to you, Ambassador Rajamoni, first. There were certain indications of what the business end of this visit might be about in Prime Minister Modi's address to the Indian diaspora in the Netherlands as well. But we will pretty soon know how things are being taken forward, because already India and Netherlands have a very extensive partnership, but there are avenues where there's a lot of room for further expansion. What can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. I think the main business part of the interaction with the Dutch leadership is about to begin. Prime Minister Modi is meeting a group of Dutch chief executive officers, and then he will go on to have discussions with the Prime Minister and his team over the conference table, as well as subsequently over dinner. The relationship has truly been very special. Netherlands is small, but is an economic powerhouse. As we all know, what Prime Minister hinted in his speech, where he talked about supply chains, refers to the ASML, which is a company within Netherlands, which is the largest manufacturer of semiconductor chips. So ASML is going to sign an MOU with the Tatas to support the manufacturing of semiconductor chips within India. And I think that is a major step forward to ensure India's self-sufficiency in this regard and are not having to depend upon anybody else. But going beyond that, this visit will mark an elevation of the relationship from the traditional focus on agriculture and water management to new areas like green hydrogen, innovation, defense, and semiconductors, as we have discussed. I understand that there is going to be agreements also signed between leading Dutch universities and India's IITs, etc., which will consolidate our friendship and relationship in the academic field. So India-Netherlands relations, which was already very good, look poised to rise to greater heights as a result of this visit. And this visit is coming exactly 9 years after Prime Minister Modi last visited the Netherlands. So in every sense, this is a very significant visit. And once again, as Prime Minister Modi said, Netherlands is a gateway for India into Europe, for Indian businesses to enter Europe. The India-EU FTA is about to come into force. That will throw up even more opportunities. And both India and the Netherlands stand ready to reap the benefits of this agreement.
All right. And Dr. Sheetal Sharma, what is your view in terms of the kind of ties that India and the Netherlands already has? Ambassador spoke about how they focused on agriculture and healthcare, and these are traditional, some of the areas that used to be focused upon, and now it's going into the future as well in terms of expansion into semiconductors and other areas of cooperation. If you look at trade and investment as well, already quite extensive, but again, tremendous scope for expansion there as well, do you think?
Gautam, let us understand India-Netherlands relationship in a broad perspective. And why I say so, because whenever and wherever Prime Minister Modi goes, his visits are not just transactional in nature, but they are very multidimensional. And why they are multidimensional? Because he is carrying a large number of things in the portfolio that he has to offer to any given country. And in the case of Netherlands, first here, now, since last many hours, we have been seeing that how he is interacting with diaspora. That is one element of it, as Ambassador also mentioned about the diaspora element and the connection. Now, this connection is not just few decades old; it is centuries old, in fact. And this is the largest diaspora on mainland Europe after UK, particularly. And if we talk about European Union, then this is the largest diaspora which is there. And the unique element of this diaspora is that it contains two sets of people. One is the recent migrants, and the other one are the twice migrants, those who have migrated from the former colonies of Suriname and Latin America. So this is something which is very unique, and as we see in the pictures also, there is a kind of cultural connection, civilizational connect between these people, those who are there. and they are fantastic in speaking a mix of Avdi, Maithili, Bhojpuri languages. Now, this is one dimension of it. The other is the current transactions and the trade and economy, which is there on the platter for Prime Minister Modi to act at two levels. And why two levels? One is the European Union, with which we are going to conclude. We have almost settled all the chapters of the negotiation on free trade agreement. But at the same time, there's another aspect to it, that how do member states fit into the entire picture of the European Union's relations with other countries. So this is where he's having a two-pronged approach, in which he has good relations with the member states also and consolidated at the European Union level. The third dimension of this relationship, or this visit, I would say, is related to the pressing concerns which are related to global supply chains, that how is going to secure India's concerns and future of global supply chains, particularly the semiconductors we are talking about. And the fourth one is the pressing concerns, and this is where he's also mentioning about India being one of the important startup hubs, and what is Netherlands going to offer to us. This again takes us back to history to a certain extent, that Netherlands has been a very remarkably doing economy, despite small size population and size in the sense, but Netherlands has answers or solutions to many of the pressing concerns which India is going to face, or the developing world is going to face, in which water management, sanitation, urban design, flood control, flood management, along with AI technology and other things which are on the plateau. So if we look at the whole visit, it is not just about something which is of immediate concern to us, but it binds history, it binds the present, it binds the future together under one umbrella. And that is why this is something which is remarkable, and I would say that there lies a huge potential among the two countries to come together and work in many of the areas which are of shared interest, mutual interest, common interest, within EU umbrella also, and the bilateral between India and the Netherlands.
Right. Now, Ambassador, if I could ask you in terms of the kind of ties that India and the Netherlands have in the strategic domain, because there's a bit of a buzz around an elevation of the partnership between India and the Netherlands, as well as part of the outcomes of this visit. But do you feel that there is tremendous room there as well in terms of expanding defense cooperation? The kind of partners that India has been seeking, of course, is those who would help in building its self-reliance in its defense, its transition from the largest defense purchaser to among the largest defense exporters as well.
Absolutely. I entirely agree. Netherlands is home to a lot of defense technologies. They are not manufacturers of large systems, but the technology they create, which they have developed there, goes into systems developed by different European countries, including aircraft, submarines, ships, etc. So India has its eyes on some key technologies in the Netherlands, which we would like to procure, which we would like to co-build, which we'd like them to build within India if possible. So all these discussions, I'm sure, will happen. But equally, as we all know, because of the Russia-Ukraine war, all of Europe is increasing its defense budget, is strengthening its arms industry, is building bigger armies. These armies need to be equipped. So there are a number of items, for example, just guns and bullets, which India manufactures and India could supply to the Netherlands as well as to the rest of Europe. I'm sure this would all figure in the discussions as far as defense is concerned when Prime Minister Modi is there.
Yes, certainly. We've been putting out these graphical pointers as well on the screen for the benefit of our viewers in terms of how extensive ties that exist between India and the Netherlands. And Dr. Sharma, if I could ask you about, in the sustainability domain as well, beyond, water management, where we have a unique strategic partnership with the Netherlands, there is, of course, renewable energy. And this time, do you think that is also something that will be expanded, especially in the context of how India is looking for alternative fuels?
Absolutely, Gautam. Once again, let us understand this in a broader perspective and narrow it down to particularly in the field of energy and green transition. If you look at European Union and the member states of the European Union, time and again there has been a kind of emphasis on the normative aspirations that the EU has on the global table. Why normative aspirations? Because when we look at what norms European Union or the member states are promoting all across the world because of their respective capabilities and expertise, it is all revolving around green transition, digital transformation, or say for example arresting climate change and all these things. Now these become very important when we negotiate or when we talk about the developmental aspirations that countries like India have. So there is a talk of normative aspirations versus the developmental aspirations. Now where the jigsaw puzzle fits with each other. It is the condition that India wants to become energy secure. India has many missions, which is of smart cities, transportation, urban development, and particularly making ourselves as energy secure in the future because our development rests on that important pillar of having uninterrupted supply of energy. And supply of energy not just on the basis of fossil fuel, because we are also meeting our targets of net zero. So how do we reconcile these two diverse aspirations that we have? In that context, energy transition, green energy becomes very important. And the countries which Prime Minister is visiting now on the agenda, these are all experts in non-renewable energy resources and renewable energy resources. And the expertise that we can have from them would certainly help us to bridge the gap that is going to fall or that is going to come in the future when we are going to become energy sufficient, energy secure in the sense. And that is why green energy transition is something which is on the agenda, and the expertise capabilities of these countries would surely help us in this regard. Along with that, water management, we already have a partnership. But urban flood management, smart city designing, urban transportation, infrastructures, all these within the short span of time, how they can help us to navigate some of the problems of over-urbanization, urban heat. And all these things are not just the big ticket programs. They are not just about security and defense and how do we purchase heavy equipment, but this is about the pressing concern that the overpopulated Indian cities are going to face. So that is why some of these aspects are very important. They will address the developmental concerns of not just India, but help us to negotiate on how do we purchase technology, how do we transfer that technology, how do we use that technology for countries like India where affordability, accessibility, usage of technology are all concerns. So these are some of the things that we have to read in between the lines, and I think this visit is going to be very helpful in overcoming many of these issues, talking about many of these areas of potential partnership and bring them to India and then rest of the developing world.
Right. And Ambassador Rajamani, do you feel that even in the traditional areas of the pillars of cooperation, which is agriculture, water management, as well as in terms of healthcare, there is further room for expansion as well? Because if you take agriculture, already extensive partnerships are there. There's a ministerial level working group too. But nowadays, because of the kind of crisis that the world is facing, because of the situation in West Asia and the Middle East, the issue of the use of chemical fertilizers, the kind of pressure that is on availability of chemical fertilizers, do you think the Netherlands could help India move towards, chemical-free farming as well, be it organic farming or natural farming?
Yes, the Netherlands is the world's second largest exporter of fruits and vegetables. They have achieved this by implementing very scientific, ultra-modern techniques of farming, especially what is called protected farming or greenhouse farming. India is a large agricultural producer. We are amongst the largest producers in the world of various agricultural crops. But our crops are unable to reach the market because we do not have domestic cold chain facilities. We can use Dutch expertise and knowledge on one hand to boost our production significantly using modern techniques like protected cultivation, which is very prevalent in the Netherlands. And at the same time, we also need to learn from them logistics. We need to bring cold chain technologies to the farm gate, whereby fruits and vegetables can be frozen and then shipped to markets within India, the big cities, as well as to markets nearby, whether it be the Gulf, whether it be Central Asia, whether it be Southeast Asia, and then, of course, across the world. So agriculture remains and will always remain an extremely important element of our cooperation. India and Netherlands have already agreed to open a large number of centers of excellence across India, which will serve as the places where Dutch knowledge and expertise is transferred to Indian farmers.
Yes, centers of excellence.
Centers of excellence. There was a decision which was previously taken to open something like 24 centers of excellence, but I think only 5-6 have opened till now. And we must move forward with speed in opening up the other centers and bringing the latest of knowledge in this regard in terms of organic, scientific, agricultural protection, and in terms of logistics and cold chain technologies to our farmers across our country.
Right. And Dr. Sheetal Sharma, already there's a strategic partnership where water management is concerned, but the kind of weather patterns that we see nowadays, especially in the era of climate change, it's uneven rainfall, especially, I mean, this time we're talking about El Nino coming to bear as well during the monsoon period. Do you feel that these are areas, because you see sudden deluges as well, where suddenly you have situations where you have flash floods coming in as well? Are these also situations that the Netherlands has developed technologies perhaps, or ways, other means to tackle, and that could be of use in India too?
Yes, Gautam, and this is not just related to just urban areas. Primarily, I would also like to bring in that despite the fact that the percentage of primary sector of the contribution to the GDP in India has decreased, however, almost half of the population still relies on the primary sector, and that too agriculture. And it does not just include farming, it includes fishing, it includes mining, and a lot many other areas. And yes, this is where when you talk about Netherlands and its expertise, large part of these countries which are lying on the northern western parts of the continental Europe, they are low-lying countries, and this is where they have expertise in terms of controlling the inflow of the seawater, stopping the flooding, reclamation of land, how to use the land which has been there, and salination of water. And all these areas which are very important in terms of development of canals, usage of backwaters, how do you connect these as transport routes to the internal areas. So these are the areas where actually these expertise are very significant for Indian population. Point number one, because there is high dependence on agricultural sector or primary sector, I would say. Number two, that the erratic weather patterns that you were just mentioning about, they are going to impact a lot, particularly the poor community in India. And this is where we have to be resilient in order to respond to these erratic patterns of weather, less rainfall or more rainfall, whatever the case may be. It impacts the livelihood of agricultural sector or the farmers, those who are there. So one important thing is that understand and collaborate on high yielding varieties where the per hectare production of the crop is more, the patterning of the crop, the rotation of the crop, then the processing, and how do we connect the cities, the supply chains within the agricultural sector, and how do we make this produce last for a longer period of time. Along with that production and supply chains, there is also the part of processing of these agricultural products. So there is a long list of areas in which there is a capacity to collaborate and learn from them. At the same time, this is also about the urban flood management and the flood management in other areas. Most of our monsoon water goes into the drains or into the rivers. We have not been able to use that water, store that water for the future or for the next few months when it is the dry season in India. And this is where, the damming, the containment of water, using that reservoirs, all these things are very important part and parcel of our developmental aspirations. And this is, once again, I would reiterate, despite being a small country population-wise, the economy-wise, it is among the top 10 per capita income economies. And this is just because of the kind of infrastructure, financial institutions, and all the capacities that they have, scientific know-how, development, and other things, that Netherlands stands apart among many of the countries. And we have pretty okay trade with, it hovers around 27 to 28 billion USD, which is not less, but it is not more also. I would say that when you look at the individual countries of the European Union, it hovers around 35 to 40 as compared to the consolidated European Union trade. So there is a lot of potential, underutilized potential. the beautiful part of these bilateral relations is that there is no historical legacy, there is no irritant that can actually hamper the relationship between the two countries. So what is all there lies in front of us is the shared future and the areas of collaboration and cooperation. And as Prime Minister Modi said, that there is 4-point agenda. One, I think he declared about the aspiration to hold an Olympic. Then it was economy, the startups, and the fourth one is to collaborate on AI and other things, which also contains the smart city objectives and mission that he has. So among all of them, if you look them together or even in isolation, all of them, they address the developmental initiatives, developmental aspirations, and I think that is where the picture gets complete.
All right. Now, one of the biggest components of how bilateral ties are looked at are the component of trade and investment, and already the Netherlands is India's 11th largest trading partner and the 4th largest investor, and there is reciprocity in that relationship as well, some amount of balance too, if you can really call it that, although of course in terms of investment, Netherlands far larger investor in India than Indians or Indian companies in the Netherlands. But as India continues to strengthen its position as one of the world's fastest growing economies, international business establishments show keen interest to participate in the development journey of India. In the Netherlands, companies and trade organizations increasingly see India as a key partner for investment and innovation. DD India's Mark Limburg reports.
India is rapidly becoming one of the world's most important economic powers, and Dutch companies are increasingly looking for new opportunities. From technology and logistics to agriculture and innovation, cooperation between India and the Netherlands continues to grow. We spoke to Edith Noordman of the India-Netherlands Chamber of Commerce and Trade and to Dutch entrepreneur Jelke Schippers, who is working closely with India about why they see the country as an attractive and promising partner for business and investment.
The Netherlands-India Chamber of Commerce and Trade has been enhancing the business relations between the Netherlands and India and vice versa already for 23 years. We are very proud to support businesses in the corridor, and well, now is even the moment with the upcoming FTA of doing that even stronger than before. What makes India particularly attractive today is the combination of scale, talent, digital transformation, and long-term economic growth.
There are tremendous opportunities for growth between India and Netherlands. Already water, agriculture and health have already been identified as the priority areas. Apart from that, both sides are also working in new and critical technologies like enabling technologies, semiconductors, maritime. So there are huge opportunities for us to grow together.
The Netherlands has really started to appreciate India for its highly skilled workers and technology. And especially with the recent trade agreement, enormous new markets will open up. So the opportunities will only grow even further.
India is increasingly viewed in Europe as the key global player for the coming decades. At the same time, the Netherlands is a highly international economy, and naturally the Netherlands has always been focused on global trade and innovation partnerships.
Europe is a really interesting long-term partner. And if you look at the Netherlands, it's a small country, but it's highly globally integrated. It speaks English very well. And especially after Brexit, I think the Netherlands is the ideal gateway into Europe.
As economic ties between India and the Netherlands continue to strengthen, many Dutch companies see India as a market full of long-term opportunity and innovation. This is Mark Limburg reporting from the Netherlands for DD India.
So fairly extensive trade and investment ties between India and the Netherlands already, but let's find out what the scope for its expansion is with our guests as well. Ambassador Rajamoni, what do you make of the prospects as it was mentioned with the kind of India-EU FTA that is taking place once it comes into effect? What kind of a gateway to Europe can the Netherlands serve as for Indian goods?
Well, we say Netherlands is a wonderful gateway to Europe because the largest port in Europe, Rotterdam, is within Netherlands. And through Rotterdam, if you trade through Rotterdam by ship and by boat or by barge, you can ship your goods to any part of Europe. The Rhine River flows into the sea from the Netherlands, and through the Rhine River there is excellent inland water transport systems which can be fully utilized. Similarly, Schiphol Airport is one of the best airports in Europe. It has one of the highest international connectivities through Schiphol, and for any kind of air cargo movements, Schiphol is an ideal base. And finally, Eindhoven, which is the home of Philips and ASML, is also known as the brain port. That is where the maximum technology exchanges happen. And through Eindhoven, already there is a large Indian community in Eindhoven. Many of the Indian companies in the Netherlands also work and operate in Eindhoven. So the city of Eindhoven is known as the brain port of the Netherlands. And through Eindhoven, we can once again connect to the high-tech sectors of Europe. So this is the reason that we say Netherlands is the gateway for Europe. One more reason is that the Netherlands is an extremely business-friendly country. The government goes out of the way to make the entry of foreign businesses into their country welcome. And India has been a preferred partner in this regard. That is why there are about 300 Indian companies in the Netherlands now. Also, Netherlands is the fourth largest foreign destination for overseas direct investment by Indian companies because of the favorable environment that Netherlands offers. Also because Netherlands has a large number of free trade agreements with other parts of the world. Therefore, it is beneficial for Indian companies to go into Netherlands and from Netherlands invest across the world. There are many tax advantages which accrue from this. It is for all these reasons that we say Netherlands is the ideal gateway for India to go into Europe. But going beyond that, the FTA will surely provide a huge boost for trade between EU and India. And as I said earlier, Netherlands stands poised to benefit from it, so does India. But going beyond that, it is the investment relationship that we should also focus on. Netherlands has huge companies with great strengths. We earlier spoke about the ASML, which is going to open an office in India. But we have also companies like Philips, companies like Unilever, Shell, who have been operating India from India's pre-independence days. They have continued in India and there have been huge successes within India. The Unilever branch of India provides almost 30% of the revenue of global Unilever. So these are all giant companies, and there are many, many more high-tech companies within the Netherlands, not to mention their own startup ecosystem, which is very vibrant and dynamic. So by linking the large companies of the Netherlands, by encouraging them to invest more and more into India, and by connecting the startup ecosystems of the two countries, we'll be able to provide a huge stimulus, not just to trade, but also to investments between the two countries.
Yes, they have a fairly significant VC funds as well, and one of them has just invested a significant amount of money in a funding round for an Indian mobility startup as well. And Dr. Sheetal Sharma, what is your take on, where do you see this relationship in the field of trade and investment, which is already fairly extensive, going with the kind of advantages that it could be lent with the FTA, the India-EU FTA coming into effect as well?
Gautam, let us understand it in the broader context and historically once again. India had established diplomatic relations with the EU long back during 1960s. And then after that, there was a kind of slow pace of the relationship that could have gained momentum. But after this stagnation period, I would say that the last 10 years particularly are or can be called as the acceleration phase. Why acceleration phase? And there are two reasons for it. One is that for a long period of time, UK was considered to be as gateway of India to Europe. But post-Brexit, once again, if we call European Union as an entity, then EU does not look at Britain as one of its now member state, no longer it is. So where do we see now Indians getting the second gateway, or what is the actual gateway now? And this is where Netherlands happens to be the next choice for again two reasons. And the first one is a general reason that for a long period of time, Europe was seen as different and distant in Indian mentality because of the English speaking and other things. And Europe was UK was a convenient choice because of large number of diaspora plus the English speaking capabilities, and the rest of the countries were more like native languages, French, Spanish, Italian, and all other things. But Netherlands, having a large population of India on the continental Europe, happens to be the first choice. The second is that when we see this as an acceleration phase, in acceleration phase, once again, as I said, that Prime Minister Modi is having a two-pronged approach, which could be also equated with the double-engine, sarkar that we talk about. So one, we are targeting the European Union. The second, we are also having good relations and the bilateral stepping up on the relations with the countries at the bilateral level. So both of them, bilateral at the EU level, are cumulatively going to contribute towards the greater good or the greater developmental goals. And as the package was showing just now, that while within the umbrella of the EU-India FTA and at the same time the smaller negotiations at the bilateral level are going to consolidate the total growth of India-EU relations. And that is why this acceleration phase is not just about the trade and economy, but the fine lines between them. And what is the most important part is that for a long period of time, these were just confined to the trade statistics. But now this is multidimensional in nature, multi-pronged approaches. And one more important thing is that gone are the days of the international relations when the bilaterals between two countries or two regions were viewed from the perspective of the great power rivalries. Now it has been realized once again, and I would talk India and EU particularly in this regard, that despite the power equations between the great powers, multipolarity, whatever, India, EU have realized that they have to come out of the shadow of either West or the East, which are more hegemonic, more dominant, more muscle flexing, more military power in that sense. So we have to look for the middle power collaborations. We have to go for the middle power engagement. And then how do we look beyond just security and defense? And this is where a lot of our pressing concerns are being answered and addressed in this. And Netherlands particularly, being one of the important economic partners in the European Union, has a lot to offer to us. And as discussed throughout the program, that these are the pressing concerns for India, because these are going to in future pose real-time challenges in 10 years down the line or 5 years down the line, or maybe in terms of climate change and its impact on economies like India. It is huge area, and the potential where their expertise are very useful. Drawing from my experience interacting with some of the universities of European Union, they have got fantastic procedural institutional setup which make understanding collaborations very easy. EU is also looking forward to fund many projects through its global gateway initiatives and other things. So this is where a lot of potential lies for India to go and learn from these. The collaboration among universities and IITs for science, innovation, technology, you name it, and this is there under the bilateral cooperation. And then this is what is going to be very useful for India in future.
Right, and concomitant to this is of course the question of mobility as well, Ambassador Rajamone, because we've seen India stressing on that, the mobility of skilled workforce where it's required. And do you think that could also be a component of the expansion of the kind of ties that India and the Netherlands already have? Because again, it is a gateway to Europe. It's a hot button subject, immigration or illegal immigration, but we're not talking about that at all. This is about skilled people.
Yes, I think we have to be conscious and realistic that there is a right-wing wave which is sweeping through many parts of the developed or the Western world, whether it be the US, whether it be Europe. So there will be resistance to large-scale immigration, and the current government in Netherlands is a minority government. They have just come into power after a right-wing government collapsed in the Netherlands. So immigration is a very sensitive issue, but there is universal recognition that Indians are highly skilled, they are extremely talented, also that they are hardworking and they are law-abiding. In fact, the only weakness, if we have any in terms of our community in the Netherlands, it is the absence of adequate Dutch-speaking people. The people who are originally from Suriname, they speak fluent Dutch, they are fully integrated into Dutch society, but the Indians still remain predominantly English speakers. So we
But the
have
Dutch are also, to a large extent, English speak. I mean, they do speak English quite well.
Yes, indeed. The Dutch speak English very well, and it is easy to live and work in the Netherlands without Dutch. But like in countries across the world, there is a spirit of nationalism there. Increasingly for jobs, Dutch language abilities are becoming a criteria. And also the government, there are a large number of Indians who go settle there, they adopt citizenship of Netherlands. They all need to pass exams in Dutch language before they get citizenship. So the government, as well as the private sector on its own, is increasingly emphasizing the need to also know Dutch language if you're going to live and work in the Netherlands. So the language is not what is important, but I think we must remain sensitive to the fact that there are tensions within their society. There are people who argue against immigration, which are mostly the conservative lobbies, the right-wing lobbies. There are the more pro-business, pro-growth, pro-higher education lobbies who say we need foreign people, we don't have enough people, our people are aging, we don't have enough labor, so we need to open our doors. This is an internal debate which is happening there. We must let it play out without trying to sort of take any side in it, because if we try and if we appear to take a side, then sentiment will turn against it. But at the same time, I think it's a natural process. It's an organic process. More and more Indians are moving to Netherlands. They are going there to study. They are going there to work. They are going there to settle down and become citizens. And the country, the amount of Indians in the society and the role that Indians play and the role that the Tsunami Hindustanis play are both extremely important in terms of today's modern day Dutch polity. I'm sure this process will continue, and the Indian government will do everything possible to ensure that the doors for Indian talent remain open.
Okay. Dr. Sharma, if we could talk about, collaboration in the field of science and tech beyond the digital domain as well. Again, extensive relations and partnerships there as well, extending from basic research to space as well. But still, of course, there is scope for expansion there, do you feel?
Truly, because when we talk about not just the transfer of technology in terms of the manufacturing sector, but the growing importance of AI, space technology, cyber, financial transaction, all these also happen to be an important component of the learning process and transfer of intelligence or say capacities. And this in fact, Gautam, spans across these sectors from space to defense. Say a small component of defense interactions came into interaction. But the important thing is that there are the communication mechanism, transfer of information, collaboration in the field of space, component making. All these things are part and parcel of the kind of collaboration we can see in the broad domain of science, innovation and research. And this is where the universities collaborate, not just in the sense of doing a theoretical research, but also learning from the labs, open labs, real-time equipment usage and all other things. And this is why in the field of health, in the field of AI, cyber, space, all these are the potential areas where I would say that if university collaborations occurs along with the business partnerships, so this is something where a huge potential lies in the future.
All right. Sounds great. Now, there's an event that we're waiting, which is the handover of the Chola copper plates by the Dutch, which was lying with the Dutch in the university for almost a century. And the recovery of artifacts has been one of the strains that Prime Minister Modi has been pursuing ever since he came to office in 2014. So that is going to be an important component as well of his engagements. The upcoming one, in fact, the next one that we're anticipating and is scheduled. Let's just tell you a little bit more about it, because from sacred temples to foreign museums, from smuggled idols to forgotten manuscripts, India is bringing its lost heritage home. Under Prime Minister Modi, the return of stolen Indian antiquities has become a major cultural and diplomatic mission, which is now going to be extended in the Netherlands.
For centuries, India's priceless heritage was looted, smuggled and scattered across the world. Temple idols disappeared overnight. Sacred sculptures were sold in black markets, and ancient relics ended up in foreign museums. But in the last decade, India has launched one of its biggest cultural recovery missions. Since 2014, under Prime Minister Narendra Modi, more than 600 stolen antiquities and artifacts have been brought back to India from countries like the United States, Australia, Canada, and the United Kingdom. One of the most significant ongoing efforts in India's cultural renaissance journey is the attempt to bring back the famous Leiden copper plates from the Netherlands. These extraordinary 11th century copper inscriptions belong to the powerful Chola Empire and are considered among the most valuable records of medieval Indian history. Preserved today at Leiden University in the Netherlands, the plates contain detailed inscriptions in Tamil and Sanskrit, describing the reign and achievements of Emperor Rajendra Chola. They speak of an India that was not isolated, but globally connected, an India whose naval power reached Southeast Asia, whose trade routes crossed oceans, and whose cultural influence extended far beyond its shores. Historians regard the Leiden copper plates as vital evidence of India's maritime strength and civilizational outreach nearly 1,000 years ago. And now, under Prime Minister Narendra Modi, India is actively pursuing their restitution. Among the most iconic returns was the magnificent bronze Nataraja statue from the Chola period. Nearly 1,000 years old, the idol depicts Lord Shiva performing the cosmic dance of creation and destruction. Stolen from Tamil Nadu and trafficked overseas, it finally returned to India after decades abroad. Another major discovery was the Annapurna idol of Varanasi. The 18th century sculpture of goddess Annapurna had been stolen over a century ago and taken to Canada. In 2021, it returned home to Kashi, symbolizing the emotional restoration of faith and tradition. India also recovered rare Buddha sculptures and sacred Buddhist relics linked to ancient civilization roots. Several sandstone Buddha statues, terracotta vases, and Buddhist panels dating back nearly 2,000 years have now returned to the country. The return of bronze Jain Tirthankar idols, Bahubali statues, and ancient Vishnu and Ganesh sculptures has further strengthened India's effort to reclaim its spiritual and artistic legacy. The Modi government has also signed international agreements to curb illegal trafficking of Indian heritage and intensify diplomatic cooperation for repatriation. These artifacts are not merely objects of art, they are pieces of India's cultural soul, returning home after centuries of separation. Tripti Tripathi's report, DD India.
So, repatriation of lost artifacts or stolen artifacts from world over, another chapter being added to it in this visit. Very soon we'll be bringing that up as well for you as and when it happens at the Hague. The return of the Chola copper plates, they're also called Anaimangalam copper plates, and they didn't look that substantial there in those images, but they weigh 30 kgs because they have 21 large and 3 small copper plates there, inscribed in both Tamil and Sanskrit, and a great history behind them as well, which tells a tale of how Indian rulers, which had huge empires cutting across India, and a lot of naval connections extending towards Southeast Asia, encouraged other religions as well in India to set up base and flourish. There was a complete secularity, a sentiment of secularity there as well, and since Ambassador Rajamoni is with us, former Indian ambassador to the Netherlands, could you tell us, this was an endeavor that has taken several years to come to fruition. What more can you tell us about the process which is now coming to this juncture of success?
Well, I would first of all compliment the Dutch government for having a very clear policy on returning artifacts to the countries from which they came. They have similarly returned artifacts to Indonesia, to Sri Lanka, all of where they had a major presence, and whose art objects can be found in museums across the Netherlands. The Netherlands has a very clear policy that if they discover anything which was stolen or wrongly brought into their country, they will immediately return it without any questions asked. In the case of the Leiden Chola plates, I think its history is not very clear as to how it came to the Netherlands. There is no proof that it was actually a case of theft by which it came to the Netherlands. However, irrespective of that fact, the Dutch government has taken a decision that these copper plates can go back to India. And they are making a very significant gesture by handing over these plates to India. And what I understand is that they will make replicas of their plates and they will keep it in their own museums for scholars to study. The plates have already been translated long back, and therefore it is already available to scholars within India for quite some time now. But still, this is a symbolic gesture, and the fact that these plates come back to India and they will hopefully be stored in one of our top museums, either in Delhi or in Tamil Nadu, is a matter of satisfaction for all Indians.
Certainly. And Dr. Sheetal Sharma, this has become a part of the kind of diplomacy that India has been conducting through not just the recent years, but for quite a long time. But getting a lot of success in recent years as well. What do you make of how, recovery of these lost artifacts, pieces of history and culture of India has been on the upswing in recent years?
Gautam, this is a moment of pride for all of us, that how Prime Minister Modi has actually, first of all, brought cultural diplomacy and India's soft power at the global level. Now, one thing about whenever we get back these things, these artifacts, they are not just symbolic in nature in terms of getting our objects back, but this is India's soul, as the package was showing, that this is soul. It is our culture, it is our heritage. And these are the things which are indications of, the kind of Indian knowledge system that had developed centuries ago. It had been looted. In some cases, it must have gone through the trade routes. The history apart from, the kind of discussions that we are having. But this is a sense of pride. This is a statement that India has arrived. India is no longer taken for granted that your precious artifacts, your knowledge systems are there for display at these museums. But India can reclaim its lost heritage, and this is where the symbol, the message, and the intent and the content of all these forms of cultural diplomacy are making waves all across the world. And this is just one part of it, to reclaim our history. But another one is to now project India as a soft power at the global level. And through our culture, literature, movies, yoga, and all other things, this has been one of the important components of our diplomatic outreach to all over the world. And European Union particularly, and Netherlands in this case, the large number of people, those who understand, some elements of cultural languages of India, as just now this was being shown, that how these artifacts, they help us not just understand the knowledge systems, but the advancement of metallurgy, the trade routes that we had, the kind of relations that we had in the past, and also indications of our cities, of our history, of our products that were being exchanged, exported, imported. So there's a whole lot of gamut which is revolving around these artifacts and the things. And once they come back to India, it adds to our glory, it adds to our assertion, it adds to our identity. And I think that is the fantastic part of it, which goes a long way in our soft power and our cultural diplomacy initiatives.
Yes, certainly. And Ambassador Rajamoni, we've seen how you talked about, it's not really known how this particular set of copper plates, the Chola copper plates, got to the Netherlands, but clearly it was unmistakably Indian. There's the ring around the plates as well has a seal of the Chola Empire, and everything can be carbon dated, so one can figure out, from which era is it exactly, roughly about 1,000 years old. And how did this process really go along? Because the presence of these copper plates was there in the Netherlands for several decades, wasn't it?
Yes, the copper plates have been present in the Leiden University library for several decades, from much before India's independence. Leiden is like the Oxford and Cambridge of the Netherlands rolled into one. And Leiden was one of the biggest centers of India studies in the pre-independence period. Great Sanskrit scholarship used to flourish there, and a large number of Dutch scholars of various aspects of India used to work in Leiden University. So it is quite possible that these plates were procured by one of those scholars in India and then brought back to the Netherlands. Or it could be some businessman, merchant who came and either sold it to Leiden University or gifted it to Leiden University. That's why I said its history is not very clear as to how it came to Leiden. But there is absolutely no doubt about the fact that it is a Chola copper plate, and the seal and the engraving has all been studied by scholars. And the historicity of that copper plate is absolutely beyond any question. It is truly a very precious record, and it is something which we can be very proud of as one of the great artifacts of India.
Yes, certainly. And I'm told that the small ceremony that was supposed to be held for the handover of these Chola copper plates has unfolded in The Hague in the Netherlands, and pretty soon we'll be playing out pictures of that as well. A much awaited event, especially for the people who have knowledge of the kind of history that India has had, not just within India but also world over, and have studied these artifacts, artifacts like these, for decades and decades. Dr. Sheetal Sharma, if I could ask you, in terms of how India's heritage has been recovered from different parts of the world, does it also tell us the kind of engagement that India has had with different nations so that it has succeeded in recovering these artifacts?
This indicates a steady rise in India's stature at the global high table. Number one. Why is it so? Because if you look at India on the world map, basically, oldest civilization, one of the oldest civilizations in the world, with rich history, heritage, culture, you name it, and we have it. In fact, at one point of time, India had, and it was one of the most successful, rich civilizations in the world. Now, in the race of modernity, somewhere, and the global world order, which was divided into the first world, second world, or third world countries, or developed or developing world, Gautam, somewhere there was, a lack of the kind of status that India enjoyed for a long period of time. But in the modern template of the dichotomy in which we were caught, we were seen as a developing country. Over a period of time, and particularly last 10 or 15 years, I would say, turn of this century, there has been a continuous rise in India as an economic power, as a civilization, as a country which asserts itself. If you look at even the kind of the connect that diaspora feels when Prime Minister Modi goes to any of these countries, it is no longer that you tend to feel that you are an Indian and there's not much into it. But now there is a constant desire, assertiveness, closeness, belongingness, which people directly show that we are Indian and we are proud to be an Indian. So these are the things which are actually an outcome of India's success story in the last 2.5 decades or more. You can, if you want to plot it on a larger time scale. So these are the things which indicate that India has arrived. India is growing in its power. India is not just about transactional, economic, and trade relations, but it is much more than the rich history, heritage, and culture that we have. Plus, along with the traditional roots of diplomacy, talking about defense and security, these are the important components which actually give us a sense of pride, being an Indian, having a sense of belongingness to our culture, to our heritage, and to our roots. And more such instances of bringing back our heritage, our culture back to our country, it further strengthens, it augments that sense of identity that we have with them. At the same time, it generates a sense of respect among the other countries also, because of the other aspects related to this cultural heritage. And it takes us back to, the rich history knowledge that we had, which over a period of time got lost into the modern narratives that we are not the front runners into science and technology, but more understanding, more in-depth analysis, more research on these items and objects will reveal that aspect of Indian society and rich knowledge system also, which I think is going to go and consolidate India's image as a knowledge powerhouse historically.
Yes, certainly, and the fact that India has always been a great civilization, tracking back millennia, that is also an understanding which gets built further, perhaps apart from the fact that then people will get to know about the kind of knowledge that India had, traditional knowledge that India had as well, and they also try to then become familiar with the kind of traditional knowledges that India can still share with the world, especially in the field of health and education.
Yes, Gautam, certainly, because there are many areas. Once again, I would say the modern template, which starts understanding the theoretical perspectives with definitions and typologies, whatever we learn in social sciences, or even the scientific inventions or discoveries only 200 to 300 years back. And that all is all rooted in European social sciences or inventions that have guided the world in the modern times now. However, the link or the understanding of this goes back into millennia in terms of if you explore more about it. So, for example, if I just talk about a concept of democracy, which is attributed to the French Revolution and the modern democracies which came to the world later on through colonialism and imposition of political systems all across the world. But no, that's not necessarily true. It is partially true. However, the seeds of democracy in India were sown long time back. This is one aspect of the political system. When you talk about economic system, trading, taxes, trade routes, all these things were there in existence, although they were discrete in nature, and the documentation part of the history or the documentation of these economic, social, political and other cultural knowledge systems was not as deep as Europe could win the race because of printing and spreading of these knowledge and whatever they produced. So there are debates about it, then how long back into the history you go and start understanding the origin of these ideas and concepts. One important thing is the health. And if you look at, the kind of knowledge system that we have, which is also expressed in Ayurveda, or you talk of Ayush as one of the main ministries these days, which goes and tries to build upon the research which has been done in healthcare. Although, of course, there is a debate between, wellness and immediate cure that we see in the modern medicine. But I'm sure that, over a period of time now in coming decades, it would be very helpful for us to understand the roots and the history of these knowledge systems, and they would certainly show a very important component which has been drowned in the history or in translation that would certainly come out of this.
Yes, certainly. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Sheetal Sharma. And now, as I also thank Ambassador Rajamouli, we're getting the images of the handing over ceremony of the Chola copper plates. Prime Minister Modi there. This has happened just a few minutes ago, and we're playing out the images now for you, the visuals of how the Leiden copper plates are now returning, very soon will return home along with Prime Minister Modi when he gets back to India. These are almost 1,000 years old, and they had been at this university, the Leiden University in the Netherlands for several decades, almost a century. And it's not really known how they managed to get there, because it happened in the pre-colonial times and it's not really documented, but it was clearly identified as Indian. And because of the policy also that the Netherlands, its governments have had in the past, they have been handing over stolen or lost artifacts that wound up in the Netherlands to other countries as well, just for example Indonesia and Sri Lanka. These copper plates are also going to be coming back to India very soon. They're being handed over as we speak they have in fact been handed over to Prime Minister Modi already. These are the images that we're playing out for you. As you can see very clearly, these copper plates, they weigh around 30 kgs, and they're inscribed in both Tamil and Sanskrit, and they basically carry a tale of how a decree was made to a certain Buddhist scholar for setting up an institution of worship and education during the Chola Empire in southern India. We're now joined by Dr. Pankaj Vashisht, Associate Professor at RIS as well. Good evening to you, Dr. Vashisht. What are your first comments on this particular engagement that Prime Minister Modi has had, where he's bringing back another stolen or lost, we're not really clear in the case of these copper plates, but clearly an Indian artifact, a piece of history and culture which was not in the country for many, many decades, but is now going to be coming back.
No, it's to me, it's a matter of great happiness and pride that the artifacts which were kind of stolen from India is coming back. I wish the other countries in Europe also follow the suit and return most of the artifacts which are lying in their museums. So it gives me a lot of pleasure that our Prime Minister is getting these artifacts back.
Yes, certainly. I mean, there is a lot of debate about what should be returned from where, particularly from the UK. It's a sensitive subject as well. We had the Mayor of New York mentioning it as well when the British monarch was visiting the US, but that is another thing to talk about. But already this campaign of bringing back stolen artifacts has already had a lot of success as far as India is concerned in recent years, don't you think?
Yes. I think these things are moving in a very right direction. And we have had such a wonderful long history, but in between we saw that how our artifacts and our symbols of our culture importance were plundered from here, and they are now lying in museums all over the world. And the funny part is that when we go there, we have to pay a museum fee to see what actually belongs to us. So I think this is a very positive thing. Certainly, in these countries where these artifacts are lying, there are people who are now saying that these things should be returned. And as you have mentioned, that Netherlands is taking lead. It is returning these artifacts not only to India, but it has also returned to other countries. So I think this is a very positive move, and it's a very positive direction which Netherlands has taken. I hope other countries will also follow this suit, and we may expect that our National Museum and other museum will have which actually belongs to us. It may come. It should come back someday, and then the journal people who cannot, journal Indian who cannot visit Britain or other countries to see these artifacts will be able to see it here in Delhi and India.
Yes, certainly. And it certainly improves ties as well if other countries are receptive to this sort of returning of stolen or lost artifacts to India. It shows the kind of engagement that these countries have with India and how that has also been expanding. But now we're getting to the next engagement of Prime Minister Modi, which is about, well, semiconductors really, because this is Indo-Dutch technology ties that are being showcased here. That's a deal between the Tata Group, Tata Electronics, and ASML, which is a Dutch company which is a leader in lithography, which is lithography machines. These are tools that are used for making semiconductor chips. And this is related to an Indian project, semiconductor facility in Dholera that the Tatas are setting up. They have partnerships with Taiwanese company as well for this purpose. And the lithography machines, which are very, very specific components and part of the process of making semiconductor chips, are going to be provided by ASML. So a very, very key MOU. This plant in Dholera is a project that's worth 91,000 crore Indian rupees. There's government assistance as well in this work from both the central government as well as the state government. And apart from that, a lot of efforts going into ASML also coming in to set up an office in India in Gift City. So this is happening in the presence of both the Prime Ministers. As you can see, Prime Minister Modi is on the left of the screen with the Indian tricolour, and there's the Dutch PM Rob Jetten as well on the right of the screen. We're joined by my colleague DD India's Amritpal Singh, who's at The Hague witnessing these events that have been taking place. We're playing out the images, Amrit, of the pact or the deal, the MOU between Tata and ASML. Tell us a little more about it, although I have told the viewers the sketchy bits that I know.
Gautam, this is a very significant, MOU which was signed today in the presence, as you said, of both Prime Ministers. between Tata Group and ASML. Now, ASML is basically a company which produces, which enables the production of semiconductor chips. They have something called as lithography machines, which are huge machines. They are very expensive machines, costing hundreds of billions of dollars. Now, ASML is a company here in Netherlands. They collaborate with chip manufacturers. Right now, they collaborate with Samsung, Intel, chip manufacturers worldwide to help them make faster, more efficient and microchips using ultraviolet technology and extreme ultraviolet technology. Now, what today's MOU would do is it's a collaboration between the Tatas, which are setting up a chip manufacturing plant and with ASML. So that will give a boost to India's semiconductor mission. As you know, India is aggressively trying to pursue its semiconductor mission to produce more and more chips in India, so that the dependency of importing these chips is reduced. Also, the fact that a giant like ASML will be cooperating with or will be entering into a collaboration with an Indian company, which would be on product enhancement, which would be on training, which would be on providing machinery and also manpower in the beginning days, kind of hand-holding to speed up chip manufacturing in India. And this is a pilot project, but this could, once if it takes off, it leads to many such products, because India is looking at manufacturing, about 20% of the world's chips by 2030. Now, that's the goal. So if to achieve that, that's an ambitious target set by India for itself. But so this MOU that's signed is a big step towards that, Gautam.
Yes, a key strategic partnership that has been now put into work. And you can see we have more guests joining us. Bhashti Mukherjee is also with us, and she's also a former Indian ambassador to the Netherlands. Just the two engagements that we have had in the last half an hour. So, Ms. Mukherjee, cutting across history with the handover of the Chola era copper plates and the future as well with this tie between Tata and SML. What do you make of how India and Netherlands ties are being taken forward through this visit to Prime Minister Modi to The Hague this time around?
Well, like my co-panelist, I was very happy to see the return of the Chola era, because before I came to Netherlands, I was India's ambassador to UNESCO, which has a convention on return of these artifacts, which were looted and plundered in colonial times. And one of the few EU countries who used to support me in my efforts to get these artifacts back was the Dutch permanent rep. And I still remember the director of the British Museum telling me that it's much safer to have it in the British Museum, because India does not have technology to maintain its own artifacts. So you can imagine the approach and how we have been able to now get back some of these most wonderful artifacts of the Chola era, which is going to delight viewers here. The other huge achievement is this giant, as you rightly pointed out, the ASML, signing this MOU with us. This is going to make such a big difference. These Dutch companies, it's a small country with amazing levels of technology. They have high tech in sectors which the Americans think they are monopolistic in, but no, it's the Netherlands. And ASML has signed this MOU with Tata. This is a huge step forward, because we need semiconductors, we need chips, we need to prepare for the future, and we have been trying for this MOU for a while. I'm glad it's come to fruition. The Dutch are very, very non-protectionist in handing over niche technology. Again, a contrast to many other European Union countries. And I think that these visuals really fill my heart with joy, that what we've been endeavoring to do for so many years has come to fruition with Prime Minister Modi's visit.
Yes, for now it's an MOU for these photolithography machines to be provided in India in the plant, in the Dholera plant that the Tatas are setting up, Tata Electronics is setting up. Hopefully we'll get the technology as well if things go well down the line. Already India's mission, the semiconductor mission, making very rapid progress in a very short period of time. At least 12 projects have been cleared and they're coming up in different parts of the world, from, as I mentioned, Dholera and Gujarat to even Assam in the northeast. And if we talk about the kind of expansion these ambitions are really now getting, Dr. If I could come to you, Dr. Pankaj Vashisht, it clearly shows the kind of partnerships, the critical partnerships that India is developing around the world, isn't it, in terms of how its needs of the futures will be met, and it is finding partners very readily as well in very short periods of time.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Since the COVID, the world has woken up to the reality that access dependent on one particular country is going to pinch us. And that is going to pinch us in the sectors which are more technology intensive and which have kind of wider implications and wider application in other industrial sector. So since 2019 onward, you can see that all the countries, India is not an exception in that sense, all the countries have been trying to diversify. And India, being one of the largest country with very sound manufacturing base, and given our size, we cannot afford dependency. So we have been trying to develop our capacity, domestic capacity in these sectors, be it critical mineral, be it chips and other sectors. But we also realize that complete dependence, doing everything at our own, is a bit difficult. So we need partnership. So that's why since 2019 onward, you will see that we have got into several bilateral as well as trilateral partnerships. Sometime back, PM was in Malaysia. There we also signed an agreement, MOU for semiconductor, because Malaysia is also very important manufacturers of semiconductor. It produces roughly around 10% of these chips globally, and it has skills, it has the other elements which are required for semiconductor manufacturing. So we signed that agreement. Now PM has gone to Netherlands. So there, Netherlands, as Bhaswati ma'am was talking about, is very good in machinery segment. So there we have signed this MOU. We are getting the machineries which are required to kind of manufacture these chips. So efforts are on to build a wider partnership with like-minded countries which are ready to engage to kind of curb dependence on a particular country to ensure that we are economically more resilient. This is not restricted to only the semiconductor segment, but in other segment. Take example of critical mineral. So India is pursuing partnership in bilateral mode as well as in minilateral mode. We have joined PEC Silica, we have joined US initiative on critical mineral, we have developed partnership with Australia, we have developed partnership with Japan, we have developed partnership with certain Latin American countries. And that is coming off of the realization that doing everything within India is not possible, because this semiconductor manufacturing is a very complicated thing. So it will take us time to master all these things. And that's why we have been trying to kind of build partnerships.
Yes, and time is also a constraint there. So it is good to have these partnerships. And Amrit, if I could come to you as well, just tell us a little bit more about this facility, 300 millimeter semiconductor fab of the Tatas coming up in Dholera. If I read from a press release issued by Tata Electronics, it says the two companies will cooperate to develop domestic talent, supply chain and research initiatives to support the long-term success of Tata Electronics Dholera fab, and this is a project that is worth $11 billion US.
That's right, and it is going to be one of the very big fabs that India is trying to build. And with this cooperation with ASML, it will give a boost to the quick production of chips. Basically, lithography machines. To explain to the layman, I also read it up. I didn't know that before. There are these huge machines weighing tons and tons, hundreds of tons. So in fact, transporting them to India from the Netherlands is going to take many months. They go on huge cargo ships. They are essentially machines which enable the production of chips. They are not, the ASML is not a chip producer. It provides the lithography machines which helps produce these chips. But what they have through these machines is the world-class technology which enables smaller chips, which enables production of more efficient chips, which enables the production of chips which are faster. So it's really a cutting-edge technology company which has now partnered with the Tatas at for the Dholera plant. Now, as I said, that once this production unit or the fab takes off, it will give a big boost to the chip production in India. Because the target that India set for itself is very ambitious. So you need these kind of tie-ups. And also, just to sort of second what was being said, these collaborations with countries like Netherlands or companies like ASML is also a part of India's multi-aligning strategy, so that you on one hand you have your relationship with countries like the United States, but what you are trying to do is you are trying to forge multi-alignment. You're trying to get a multi-alignment here so that your dependence for technology on one particular source or one particular country or one particular block is reduced. And as the global order is changing, countries are seeing to that multiple supply chains, multiple collaborations can happen. Therefore, you cannot be held ransom or dictated to, especially in critical areas like semiconductors, which have a strategic bearing on where your country is going. So in that sense also, today's signing of the MOU is very important and falls in the context of your policy of multi-alignment, Gautam.
Yes, certainly, and India's semiconductor mission has made rapid progress as well, already producing commercial semiconductor chips. In this case, the plant is already under construction, and once it starts producing chips, it will manufacture them. Semiconductor, that is applications across automobile, mobile devices, artificial intelligence as well, and other key segments as well, not just for the Indian market, the domestic market, but for the international market as well. Amritpal, I'm being told that you need to move on for the next event of the Prime Minister. So I'm going to free you and stick with our two guests. Ambassador Mukherjee, in terms of how India is expanding its collaborations and these tie-ups, not just G to G, but B2B as well, as is there in this case. Of course, the governments on both sides also playing key roles there. Since it happened in the presence of the two Prime Ministers. Do you feel that this is an area that is really now gathering a lot of pace? It's accelerating in a manner which might have been unimaginable a couple of decades back.
Absolutely. I cannot overemphasize the importance of this MOU with ASML and reiterate that Tata has a long established presence in Netherlands for decades. In fact, Tatas have bought over some important Dutch companies, etc. And when I was there, Ratan Tata visited and stayed with me. And I remember going with him to meet the mayor of Amsterdam, where they had the most amazing meeting, where they talked about the need for India and Netherlands to branch out into niche areas of technology, where the Netherlands has the global expertise. They are very modest people, so they don't talk about it. It's a complete contrast to the present American administration. But if you go to Netherlands and you marvel that such a small country has such high niche technology, and they are not protectionist, they are willing to negotiate a decent price, and it is relatively easy to do business with them because of their approach to trade, which is very forward-looking and non-protectionist. I'm sure they would have been horrified at weaponization of tariffs. They were always against tariff barriers of every kind. So, as I said, these very, very heavy machines which will come here will help us to produce niche area chips which we very badly need and which we were earlier getting from some other countries, Israel and one or two other key partners whom I won't mention on national television. But this is going to resolve a huge lacuna that we had because we did not have this kind of tech in this area earlier. Moreover, I might like to add that I don't know where the next engagement is. I'm sure we'll resolve that mystery in a couple of minutes. But the Netherlands has so much more to offer us. This includes, for instance, water management, cleaning up of rivers, amazing, heritage preservation. They have the greatest expertise in heritage preservation. They also have very, very high-tech niche technology in engineering, in making of bridges. If you go to Netherlands and see how the bridge moves up to allow a huge ship to pass through in Rotterdam, then it comes down and closes. These bridges are very old. They work perfectly. So then their whole waste management of every kind, their environment, green environment, and the manner in which they have, through low cost, brought this technology into their country, and that they are willing to share it, unlike many other countries I don't want to mention again on national television, is a clear sign that PM visiting Netherlands is going to be a visit very rich in dividends, because they are very impressed by India. They have a long footprint. They used to keep telling me that the Dutch footprint is 400 years old. I was too polite to say that some of that was a colonial footprint, so I would steer clear from that subject. But it is
It's a bit of a grey area with the Dutch, isn't it? Whether they were colonial power in India or not. I mean, they had trading posts which they used to have some defences for as well, but then they got pushed out as well by the British.
Yes, and they have some very interesting Dutch architecture in different parts of India, including a heritage post office that I've seen, and they are very proud of it. They are very proud of their footprint, and they say that if it was unequal earlier, it is equal now. That's a good and diplomatic way of getting over this whole issue of whether it was a colonial footprint or an ex-colonial footprint. But whatever it was, they are very proud of their Indian connection, and they speak about it all the time, and they are a robust trading partner. There are more than 400 Indian companies in Amsterdam, and after Brexit, a lot of Indian companies moved to Amsterdam, which was to the benefit of the Indo-Dutch business partnership. They also have a very smooth system of business visas, by which if you want to do business, it's like a fast-track business visa. These are all things that we've done with Netherlands and with Germany, not with others.
All right.
I'm sure it's going to see a fillip in the years to come.
Certainly. We're just taking a quick break at this point. We'll be back with more because there are engagements still to unfold where Prime Minister Modi's visit to the Netherlands is concerned. Just the second leg of his five-nation tour. Just stay with this special show.
मिस सीमा
जी
अभी पुलिस स्टेशन आई है। रुकिए वरना घर आ जाएंगे।
क्यों? लेकिन मैं
अकेले दूसरे कमरे में जाइए। आपका बेटा हमारे कस्टडी में है और आप डिजिटल अरेस्ट में हो।
डिजिटल अरेस्ट?
1 लाख दो, बच जाओगे।
इतने पैसे?
अच्छा ठीक है, एक लिंक भेजिए। अभी प्रोसेसिंग के लिए 30,000 दो, वरना बेटा जेल जाएगा।
जेल तो तुम जाओगे। तुम्हारा चेहरा रिकॉर्ड हो चुका है।
अरे
डिजिटल अरेस्ट जैसा कुछ नहीं होता, ये सब फ्रॉड है, इसीलिए पैनिक ना करें। पुलिस, बैंक, आरबीआई इत्यादि के नाम पर आने वाले साइबर अपराधियों के फोन या वीडियो कॉल से सावधान रहें। उन्हें पैसे ना भेजें और तुरंत पुलिस में रिपोर्ट करें।
हेलो मम्मा। आरबीआई कहता है,
जानकार बनिए, सतर्क रहिए।
Welcome back. We are talking about Prime Minister Modi's visit to the Netherlands, the second leg of his five-nation visit. Now, after a successful visit to the UAE, Prime Minister Modi is visiting 4 European nations, Netherlands, where he's already, and then, of course, after that, Sweden, Norway and Italy. One of the highlights of the visit would be the third India-Nordic summit taking place in Oslo in Norway as well. India's economic engagement with Europe bears a positive momentum in view of the India-EU FTA. The next report takes a closer look at India's ties with these European nations from trade and investment standpoint. Now, DD India's Shubhendu Ghosh has put together this report.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is on a five-nation visit to West Asia and Europe. The European leg of the visit assumes particular significance with India's interest in clean energy, innovation and trade partnerships. Prime Minister Modi began the Europe tour with the Netherlands. This is Prime Minister's second visit to the Netherlands after his previous visit in 2017. The visit will foster close cooperation spanning diverse sectors, including defence, security, innovation, green hydrogen, semiconductors and a strategic partnership on water. The Netherlands is one of India's largest trade destinations in Europe, with bilateral trade worth $27.8 billion in 24-25 and India's fourth largest investor with a cumulative FDI of $55.6 billion. Next, Prime Minister Modi will travel to Gothenburg, Sweden on 17th-18th of May. Prime Minister had earlier visited Sweden in 2018 for the first ever India-Nordic summit. In Sweden, India will explore new avenues of cooperation. Bilateral trade reached $7.75 billion in 2025 and Swedish FDI into India has reached $2.8 billion from 2000 to 2025, as well as collaboration in green transition, AI, emerging technologies, startups, resilient supply chains, defense, space, climate action, and people-to-people ties. Leaders will also address the European Roundtable for Industry. After Sweden, Prime Minister Modi will head to Norway from 18th to 19th May for the third India-Nordic Summit and bilateral engagements. This will be the first visit of Prime Minister Modi to Norway. He will address India-Norway Business and Research Summit along with the Norwegian Prime Minister. The visit will focus on trade and investment, capitalizing on India-EFTA Trade and Economic Partnership Agreement, as well as clean and green tech and blue economy. The visit will also be an opportunity to induce momentum in bilateral trade worth around $2.73 billion in 2024 and investments by Norway's government pension fund of close to $28 billion in the Indian capital market. The Nordic Summit will also provide an impetus to India's bilateral trade worth $19 billion in 2024 and investment ties with Nordic countries, as well as help build resilient supply chains. In the final leg of his visit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be in Italy from 19th to 20th of May. Prime Minister had last visited Italy in June of 2024 for the G7 summit. The visit takes place in the backdrop of a strong momentum in bilateral ties, with both sides proactively implementing the Joint Strategic Action Plan 2025-29, a comprehensive roadmap for cooperation in various sectors, including in bilateral trade, which reached $16.77 billion in 2025, boosting investment, which has recorded a cumulative FDI of $3.66 billion from 2000 to 2025, defense and security, clean energy, innovation, science and technology, and people-to-people ties. Prime Minister Modi's Europe visit will further deepen India's partnership with the continent across sectors particularly trade and investment ties in light of the recently concluded India-EU FTA. Shubhendu Ghosh's report for DD India.
So expanding ties with Europe big on the agenda where Prime Minister's five-nation visit is concerned. Right now, of course, is in the Netherlands, which is the second leg of his visit. And we've been talking about the Prime Minister's engagements through the day. Not just the Indian diaspora, but meeting the monarch and the Queen of Netherlands. And of course, these events as well that have taken place, which is the handing over of historical artifacts, the Chola copper plates, as well as that huge tie-up and MOU between India's Tata Electronics and the Netherlands' ASML, which is Europe's largest, highest valued company, which is into making these huge photolithographic machines that are essential. They provide the tools for the production of semiconductor chips, which will be given to the Tatas for their plant in Toltera, which is under construction. India has already expanded its semiconductor mission to a large extent, started producing commercial semiconductor chips as well. 12 projects have been cleared, are in various stages of coming to fruition as well. And this entire process is unfolding very rapidly. And to talk about it all, we have with us Bhashti Mukherjee, former Indian ambassador to the Netherlands, and Dr. Pankaj Vashisht is also with us, Associate Professor RIS. Thank you for staying with me. Ambassador Mukherjee, this is something that you were talking about, the kind of areas, not just semiconductors, but several areas, futuristic areas that India can, of course, find partners in Netherlands for, be it within the government or outside. That's the kind of capability that the small European nation has, which well, largely stays under the radar, doesn't it?
Well, that's the way they like it, the Dutch. They like to do their business, huge amount of business, but stay under the away from the spotlight. I think that's actually crucial for success in businesses and which are high tech and very sensitive, like what we're talking about right now, semiconductors, etc. But more than that, I'd like to add that be it Amsterdam or be it Rotterdam, you have so many Indian companies collaborating with Dutch companies there for decades, but they were waiting for an FTA. In 2007, we were on the verge of concluding the FTA when, if you remember, there was this huge crisis of banks which spread rapidly from the US to the EU, and the EU was no longer able to maintain the concessions that they had given us, given that they were a huge trading bloc and they were trading with a much smaller country. Therefore, there has to be some concessions given to balance out our concessions. From 2007, it went absolutely into a hidden cupboard from where it was extricated and signed. And this India-EU FTA will also impact very positively the kind of trade arrangements we have with the Netherlands, because it also reduces duties on areas where they have been asking us for a long time to reduce duties. On the other hand, they would also facilitate much more FDI into India. This is a country, small but very, very rich, like the Nordics, who like to invest outside. We need FDI flows into India because of what's been happening on Straits of Hormuz, etc. There has been some outward flight of foreign investment. This will balance it out immediately. And if the Nordic trip goes off well, which I'm confident they will, there is huge goodwill both in Norway and Sweden and among the Nordic countries to bring in much more FDI into India. And they also have niche technologies like the Dutch. Like the Dutch, they also like to keep it low-key. These are low-key people with a lot of goodwill for India. And I think that this will enable us to balance out, and it will also help to strengthen the rupee, which was in a free fall a few days ago and has now stabilized. It will help us to reverse some of the impact that we saw because of what's happening on Straits of Hormuz. until the Straits of Hormuz issue gets cleared up. This is an amazing option, that is to look for multiple partners, multiple areas where we can do business, and we should never ever again, in my perspective, Gautam, get over dependent on one particular source or for energy or technology. We must diversify, which is what we are doing, so that never again should India have to face this kind of challenge in the near future.
Well, certainly one has to wait and see what happens on the Strait of Hormuz stalemate as well. What kind of consensus is built on that? India and Netherlands largely on the same page in terms of freedom of navigation. But as far as resolving that conflict is concerned, that is something that is a different kettle of fish, although not much difference between India and Netherlands there. But let's see what kind of an opinion is formulated. Perhaps that issue will come up very, very prominently when the Prime Minister is in Italy for the G7 meet. But as far as successful engagements go, let's also talk about what happened in the UAE. Prime Minister Modi held talks with UAE's President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan during his official visit to the United Arab Emirates on Friday. A key highlight of the visit was the announcement of $5 billion in investments into India by UAE entities, reflecting the deepening strategic and economic partnership between the two countries. The investment package includes $3 billion by Emirates NBD in India's RBL Bank, $1 billion by the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, along with the National Infrastructure and Investment Fund, that's the NIIF, for priority infrastructure projects in India, and another $1 billion by International Holding Company in Samman Capital. Leaders also welcomed the success of the India-UAE Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, that's the CEPA, which has significantly boosted bilateral trade. The new investments are expected to strengthen India's growth story while reinforcing long-term strategic investment ties between India and the UAE. And let me go to Professor Vashisht on that. Clearly, these investments, I mean, India and the UAE already have investment pact as well. It took shape and was signed and put into effect in 2024 itself. So already investment a huge component of the ties between India and the UAE. But how heartening and how really reinforcing is it to see this sort of a major commitment being made in the course of a single visit, and what sort of a message does it send out to the world?
No, I mean, if you look at the trajectory of India and UAE relation over the period, you can see that one block or one country where we have witnessed the most significant growth in bilateral economic engagement is the UAE. Simply look at the trade. How the trade between two nations have increased is phenomenal. And at the same time, in line with this trade, we have witnessed significant increase in bilateral investment. The UAE companies have been investing in Indian market very aggressively, and in this line, I think this 5 billion new investment commitment is very good initiative, and it should be welcomed. And I think this is going to kind of cement the already, which is the story which is going on for last decade or so, where we have seen that two countries have emerged as a very close economic partner. UAE is providing not only its domestic market, but it is also emerging as a platform which India is using to export to the other countries. So I think the economic relations between India and UAE have matured, and still there is a lot of potential to improve. I think this visit has paved the way to further deepen the economic engagement between two countries. But I think more than this investment, I'm not sure if I'm jumping the gun or not. But I think this visit has the significance of this visit has been in terms of energy commitment which we have made. This 5 billion investment is no doubt important for India, but for a country size of India, which receives roughly around 80 to 100 billion dollar every year as investment flow, 5 billion is significant, but the real story is in the energy sector. I think we will be discussing later.
Yes, certainly. Strategic Oil Reserves, big project that the UAE, after having come out of OPEC Plus, has undertaken with India. But as far as investments go, Bhashwati Mukherjee, the Netherlands, of course, a very large investor in India, already $55 billion. So it's much ahead of the UAE. This sort of a tie-up or investment commitments that the UAE has done as part of Prime Minister Modi's very brief visit there just sends out the message of the kind of opportunities that still exist in India, doesn't it?
That visit, as my co-panelists pointed out, had several objectives. First of all, it reassured the 40% Indian population of UAE is of Indian origin. It reassured the diaspora. It gave a strong signal that we stand with UAE and that we do not approve of attacks on their installations, that we believe that the India-UAE partnership is strong and vigorous and will help to counter and protect UAE from the kind of cross currents that they are being subjected to. It was particularly significant because at the same time, the Russian foreign minister and the Iranian foreign minister were here talking to EM, while our Prime Minister was in UAE giving this signal that we stand with UAE. UAE, having left OPEC, now is free to do what it pleases. And one of the most important things, again, to reiterate what I said earlier, that we must make sure that we never are put in such a situation of, again, it's almost like blackmail. The strategic reserve that UAE has offered us will be hugely useful. And let's face it, the Straits of Hormuz are not going to stay closed forever. They will open up. But it will take, according to my friends who are economists and experts, they say it will take 5 to 6 months for things to return to normal. In which case, we have to brace ourselves and look at alternative sources, which is what our Prime Minister and his government is doing. And in that context, the engagement with UAE is even more important, because it is important to understand that international waterways cannot be subjected to any tariff. It's against the law of the Sea Convention. So when some people say we should do the same in Straits of Malacca, I tell them, no, two wrongs don't make a right. It's wrong. We should not use international waterways as choke points. And what has been done in Straits of Hormuz is wrong. We have the right to use the Straits of Hormuz, but at the same time, Iran needs to have a fair deal to save its face like the other side. Under those circumstances, what we got from the UAE is a huge amount of reassurance that in a difficult time, we have got very useful friends who are there to help us, and we are there to give them support. So I cannot overemphasize again the importance of that short visit to UAE, a country which is heavily dependent on the Indian diaspora, and Indian diaspora have not left UAE. They are convinced that they will be able to tide this over. They have not left. That again is a great indication of the attachment of the Indian diaspora to UAE and its prosperity. So I think all in all, this was a very significant visit, as pointed out by my co-panelists.
All right. We'll talk about this further, and Prime Minister's trip to the Netherlands. But let me also tell you about something that the Prime Minister did while he was overseas as well. Well, hours after a news report claimed that the government is considering to impose a tax on foreign travel, Prime Minister Modi took to social media to clear the air. In a rare rebuttal from the Prime Minister himself, Prime Minister Modi has rubbished a report which claimed the government is considering a cess or tax on foreign travel. Taking to social media on Friday, Prime Minister Modi replied to the post by a media outlet and said there was not even an iota of truth to the report. He wrote that there is no question of putting such restrictions on foreign travel. He said, we remain committed to improving ease of doing business and ease of living for our people. An extraordinary move by Prime Minister Modi while he's overseas, when he felt that a falsehood was being spread which had the potential to impact India's repute within the country and outside, he completely took everyone by surprise by saying that it's completely false himself. Usually what happens is there's a wing of the government, the information wing, which issues these fact checks and these sort of false rumors, bids to spread false information are countered. But in this case, the Prime Minister himself issued this sort of rebuttal. All right, we will keep tracking Prime Minister Modi's engagements as far as the Hague in the Netherlands is concerned. Very soon we'll have images of a business roundtable that the Prime Minister's had along with his Dutch counterpart as well at the Hague. But for the moment, thank you so much for joining us, Ambassador Mukherjee, as well as Dr. Vashisht. And thank you to our viewers for staying with us through this special show over the course of the last 2 hours. But we're not done with the Netherlands leg of Prime Minister Modi's visit. My colleague Ramesh Ramachandran will be with you very soon to take this forward as well. Thanks for watching for the moment and keep watching DD India.